Good morning, students. Proceeding with the second chapter, that is sectors in an Indian economy, where we will be seeing the graphs as I had told you earlier. Where in 1970-71, the primary sector was the highest sector, and the secondary sector and tertiary sector were not there. But after 1970 to 70, after 1971, tertiary sector became very important and primary sector was still in existence as compared to the secondary sector. We will see this in a graph as compared to the GDP percentage. Then there is employment opportunities as well. Today we will, the basic idea of this video is to send the graph. Secondly, to know what do you mean by underemployment and disguised unemployment, and how to create employment opportunities in India. Now, as per this graph, it is similar to your textbook, but I have drawn it in order to make you understand in a better manner. So I have already allotted these boxes with the different graphics, like primary is blank, secondary is with the box with two lines, and tertiary is the diagonal lines, and PSD is the primary, secondary and tertiary sector. Now when we see in graph 1, in 1970 to 71, primary sector was the largest share as compared to the GDP, whereas secondary sector comes in where they have minimal amount or very few services were there in the secondary sector. Then came the tertiary sector, which was minimal to the core. But when it was 2010 and 11, primary sector did increase, but with respect to primary sector, secondary sector also increased in a larger share, whereas tertiary sector also increased with respect to primary as well as secondary sector. Now graph 2 and graph 3. Now graph 2 is the shares of sectors in GDP which based on percentage. Again I have done the same thing, and in x-axis it is year and in y-axis it is rupees. Same as graph 2 and graph 3. Graph 2 shares the sectors in GDP as compared to the percentage, how primary sector increased and how the secondary and tertiary sector increased with the respect to the primary sector in 1970-71. And why tertiary sector became more important. First, like in any other country, several services like hospitals, educations, telegraph services, municipal corporations are required. That was basic consideration of services. In a developing country, government takes the responsibility for this provision. Development of agriculture and industry leads to the development of services, transport, trade, storage. Greater the demand for primary and secondary, there will be development of these services. So now if income increases, there are certain sections of the people who start demanding more, like eating out or tourism, shoppings, private schools, private hospitals. Now these certain services like information and communication technology have become more important and it become essential. The production of these services are rising rapidly, as we can see in the graph. Now remember, not all services sectors are growing equally. Now when we go for graph 3, that is share of sectors in employment, what I am going to say is this sector employs many different kinds of people. At one end, there are limited services available that employ highly skilled laborers, whereas larger number of workers like repair persons, transport persons, small vendors hardly earn. So in 1970-71, agricultural sector is high, secondary sector is okay, tertiary sector is minimal. When I go for 2009 and 10, with respect to the employment in percentage, primary sector is still the highest, secondary sector is okay, tertiary sector is great. That's why most of the time I have written here that primary sector is the largest employment ever. Most of the people are employed in the agricultural sector. Now we will be learning what do you mean by underemployment. Now underemployment is a situation where people are not working on a full-time basis, but they are working on a part-time basis. I will give you an example where you will come to know and have a better clarity in mind what do you mean by underemployment. But before going that, I will also tell you what do you mean by disguised unemployment. Now disguised unemployment is like people are employed, like minimum suppose 6 people are employed and the working category requirement is only of 4. So those two additional requirement is the disguised unemployment. I will tell you in a better manner. As you can see, I have already written the definition of underemployment and I have created a scenario. Okay, so now underemployment is a condition in which people are employed at less than full-time or regular jobs. So suppose L is a person who has 2 hectares of unirrigated land and she is growing crops like jawar and arhar. Now there are 4 family members like Kamla, Basant, Malhar, Meena. What they are working in the same field like L, and they are doing the same jobs like L, but labor efforts get divided. So no one is fully employed on the regular job basis. They are all working in the same field but not for a full-time basis. That situation is known as underemployment. Okay, now we will be going for disguised unemployment. Now the other name of disguised unemployment is hidden unemployment. It is a condition in which people are visibly employed but are actually unemployed. In this scenario, there is requirement of only 4 people, but there are 6 people involved in the same field. So those additional 2 people are known as disguised unemployment. So disguised unemployment is like there are 4 people who is working in the job, but actually in the field it is 6 people who are visibly employed. Okay, so those 2, they are unemployed. They are visibly employed but actually they are unemployed. Those situation is known as disguised unemployment. Okay, have you ever considered that in India 46.9% is working population at the age of 5 to 29 years? If yes or no, we don't know. But yeah, we have heard about child laborers as well. So where did we see child laborers? Like in tea stall? I have seen it. Okay, so now if these children go to the school, that means they need more teachers, that means more institutions. So this is how the government would do that. If they give one educational institute where they hire teachers and these children go to study, that means they can work in a proper manner and they can get job in a proper manner. They would come to know about various things and various technologies like IT, telecommunications. Even they would come to know about the healthcare facilities as well. Now, every state or region has increased or has the potential to increase the income and employment of the people, or regional craft or industry or new services like IT. So, some of this would require proper planning and support from the government. For example, tourism as a sector is improved. So, every year more than 35 lakh people get employed. So, this must be discussed. So, for a long time, it would be implemented in a better manner. So, recognizing this, the central government in India made a implementing act or right to work in 200 districts of India, and then extended additional 130 districts. The remaining districts were rural and were brought under the act with effect from 1st April 2008. Now it is called National Rural Employment Act, NREGA, and now the name has changed as MNREGA. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Act. So basic of this act is to provide employment within 100 days to the person, or if the government fails to do so, they will provide the person with unemployment allowances. If you have any doubt, do let me know. Thank you.